Hello everyone, and this is my review for WWE Monday Night Raw on March 18th, 2013. I'll go off and say right off the bat, there was only two things that really disappointed me about the show, and pretty much the rest of the show I felt was extremely good and came off really well in their building towards WrestleMania. The two areas that really disappointed me in general. The confrontation between Fandango and Chris Jericho in the backstage area after, Fandango decided not to do his debut once again. It looks like this could lead into some kind of feud going into WrestleMania or into some kind of match going into Raw or something in that sense. And that kind of disappoints me just in the sense of, even though Fandango's little deal with him not debuting or canceling the debut because no one's saying his name right or something in that sense has been drawing him a fair amount of heat. I don't think he's to a level to where he needs to feud with Chris Jericho yet. It looks like they're trying to force a big feud on him really quickly to try to get him over a little bit more quickly. I feel like they could do something different. Give him an opening feud that would have been something different, or just in general, he's not to an area where he needs to be facing Chris Jericho at this point in time. So that was one disappointment. The other disappointment was, again, just a lack of the ability to build their main event, which is John Cena and The Rock for the WWE title going into WrestleMania. I mean, you had a nice little promo, and once again, I'm glad Cena, when he's talking about The Rock, he's keeping it more on the serious level. He's talking about the redemption from the loss from last year and all that sense. But just the aspect that they weren't able to build anything between the two of them this week again, mainly because, Rock's schedule didn't allow him to be there, was very much a disappointment. And also, with the interruption of the primetime players in general, the segment wasn't as bad as the Brad Maddox portion last week, but again, the primetime players portion to this was actually pretty bad in general, which also ended up leading to that lackluster match with John Cena and Darren Young. Though it did pretty much get over the point that it seems like they want to throw that aspect that John Cena's focused. He's focused on the match for the WWE title. He's ready and raring to go for WrestleMania. So they got that point across. So it was okay in that sense, but all in all, it's still a disappointment that they couldn't actually build anything more between the two of them. Though, for the most part, like I said, Monday Night Raw was extremely good. You had really good matches in there. Just in general, to go off and say right off the bat, the Alberto Del Rio Cody Rhodes match was an extremely fun match, great one to watch, and of course it led into what I feel like was where last week I felt like the Alberto Del Rio and Jack Swagger feud was lacking and any kind of real good build towards it. They really picked it up again this week, where they're finally showing how personal this war of the words that they've had over the last so many weeks has affected their attitudes and everything in that sense. I liked how Swagger came out to attack Del Rio right after the match. Del Rio gains the initial advantage. Looked like he's going to get his hands on Zeb Coulter, which of course turned around the actual tide and gave Jack Swagger the advantage, eventually getting rid of him, and then the added effect of him attacking Ricardo Rodriguez and making the sense of they're playing off that Jack Swagger broke his ankle with the ankle lock. I like that aspect in there. It just shows how like I said, that war of the words that they've had going into over the past few weeks had just how personal this feud has made it between them two with those war of the words, and you're seeing that in the actions now, which is where I felt like they needed to go maybe last week in that sense. But it's good that they went that way this week, and it came off really good in my mind. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a moment. It's good. It's good to see that they're finally also building something with Dolph Ziggler and giving him a few going into WrestleMania. I like the little interaction with AJ coming out during Team Daniel Bryan and Kane's match with Primo and Epico. That itself was an okay match as well, but nothing too special. But I like that little interaction in there, which led into the later portion of the night where they actually challenged, or Team Hell No actually challenged Dolph Ziggler and Big E Langston to a match at WrestleMania, which of course the tag team titles will be on the line. So it's good to see that they'll have some kind of feud going into WrestleMania, and it's actually good that they actually wanted to do it weeks in advance. It wasn't a last minute placement on the card of some way, shape, or form. So that was definitely another good thing. Another area that I liked was the fact that they. Because on SmackDown they had Ryback in that 6-man tag match against The Shield. I like the aspect that, you know, after his match with David Otunga, you had Mark Henry there, and then you had Teddy Long and Vicky come out, you know, saying, you know, you're out of the 6-man tag match and you'd be facing Mark Henry. This is definitely where I think they needed to put Ryback in this sense. He hasn't really had a full resolution with The Shield, but that can be put onto the back burner for this sense to give him a bigger match for WrestleMania with Mark Henry, because it's one of those matches where it's two powerhouses going at it. So it should be a really fun feud. Mark Henry's actually really good on the mic, and Ryback himself is actually not that bad either on the microphone, so they can get a promo or two in there, and you of course will get the overt physicality for the match because they're both extremely strong men. So should be an interesting storyline going in there. In the sense with the Shield, that pretty much brought to the point that now it's only Randy Orton and Sheamus, and it was nice to see that, you know, after the match with 3MB, Shield comes in. It looks like they're gonna have the man advantage. The only real small disappointment is that Big Show just runs down there like he's trying to make the save, almost making him like a face. I thought they would make him look more like a tweener type personality, where he's not really a face, but he's still more heelish, but he's gonna team up with Randy Orton and Sheamus just for this one occasion, which was actually saved somewhat by the fact that, you know, not only was Sheamus and Randy Orton looking at the Shield and trying to fend them off outside, but they were also keeping a close eye on Big Show to see what his actions and true intentions were being out there. So that was a nice little save to that situation. I liked what they did there in that sense. Which pretty much, this one brings me to the match of the night, which was Wade Barrett, Miz, and Chris Jericho. That was a really fun match, really great triple threat match between the two of them, or not two of them, between the three of them, and just all in all, just best match of the night. Just the ways that they worked in the submission holds with Miz and Chris Jericho and how they broke them up were great ways of doing it. Of course, the way Wade Barrett ends out winning with a roll-up after it looks like Miz is going to get the win. They just timed everything perfectly and really came together really well. So it doesn't really look like there's any kind of feud coming out of it, but it was just a really good match to watch. And this, pretty much, this brings me to what I think were the two big points of the night and two of my probably favorite portions of the show. Honestly, my favorite portion of the show I'm going to talk about right now, which was the Undertaker and CM Punk promo, where Undertaker comes out, you know, demanding the urn back, and then you have CM Punk backstage. Just initially, he's talking with the urn and trying to talk like Paul Bear, which honestly came off fairly entertaining and somewhat funny in that sense as well. And then, of course, just the mind game storyline that they're going with CM Punk, with him just tossing around the urn and actually dropping it at one point. You know, just great heel tactic from CM Punk in this sense, and it just came off really well. You can tell that and with the reaction of the Undertaker, you can tell they're really trying to play this storyline where CM Punk's trying to get under the Undertaker's skin, and, you know, he's trying to make this more personal versus just the streak. So It came off really well. It was probably my favorite portion of the show. Just came off really great. Which leads me to what ended the show, which was Brock Lesnar, the Brock Lesnar's Triple H contract sign, which pretty much just had Paul Heyman out there for the most part. I liked how Paul Heyman was continually getting under Triple H's skin. You know, he was kind of saying these stipulations like a blindfold match, or having Triple H's ankles shackled and his hands not tied but handcuffed behind his back type deal. And then he wanted to say something more personal, so he brought his wife into it, which eventually led to to Triple H beating down Paul Heyman, and then eventually signing the contract. This eventually brought out Brock Lesnar, where it seemed like he was coming out extremely angry. Where if you thought he was coming out extremely angry, he would have come out earlier. But he waited till the contract was signed, and you know, Paul Heyman backs him off and everything. And honestly, the stipulations that they added to the match, I felt were very predictable type match stipulations, but were definitely needed for this type of match. The no holds barred area is something that's needed for this type of match, where the two of them can just slug it out and have just a big brawl going in, or just have a big brawl for the WrestleMania match. And then adding the stipulation that Triple H's career was on the line. Again, very predictable, but it gives Triple H something to actually lose here in this sense. You know, pretty much the last time they had it, it was just a match between the two of them. It was pretty much no holds barred, and you know, Brock Lesnar comes out the victor. Now Triple H has something to lose. It gives him a little bit more emphasis to try to not only win the match, but get more to get the revenge that he wanted, that he didn't get back at the SummerSlam time. So all in all, I felt that Monday Night Raw, outside of the two disappointing parts that I said right at the beginning of this, came off really well. Came off as a really good show and really good building going into WrestleMania for their storylines and matches. You're actually getting some of the undercard in there now to go along with the main event matches. And all in all, I would say this was a very good Raw for this week, and that's my review for Monday Night Raw this week. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.